It's Tuesday. That means it's the Apex Energy Cup Series, racing from the Slingshot Racing League. Welcome, everybody. I am Ellis Thomas, and I'm joined in the booth by my co-host, Chris Smith. Tonight, we bring you live racing action from the ARCA car, straight from Daytona International Speedway. This track took over a year to build, and it opened in 1959. It was intended to be the crown jewel of the emerging stock car series called NASCAR. This track is so big, engineers had to take into account the curvature of the earth when building it. The steep 31-degree banking was actually made from the dirt dug out from the area Lake Lloyd sits right now in the infield. These drivers aren't going to be spending a lot of time off throttle, which is probably going to lead to high speeds and very little room for error. One mistake can lead to the big one. Will we see it tonight? We're going to find out at the end of 100 laps. Chris, are you excited for some racing tonight?
I'm very excited, Ellis. It's going to be a great race tonight. If anything, last week in the Clash proved that these drivers know how to get around a bumpy Daytona, and their confidence is going to be magnified even more tonight on a smooth Daytona. This track was repaved in 2011, and when it was repaved, it brought even more side-by-side racing to these high banks. So these drivers proved last week in the Clash that they know how to get around here. We went a long time before we saw any trouble at all, and I suspect that we'll see much of the same again tonight.
Awesome. So just a quick rundown of how the race is going to work. It's going to be 100 laps around Daytona. We suspect the fuel window for these cars is somewhere between 38 and 42 laps, and that's going to depend on how well the cars are working together in the draft. Drivers have 3 sets of tires. That should not be an issue tonight with pretty low tire degradation. But there are some stories that we want to keep an eye on. The first one, Aaron Smith. He's the defending champion. He's making a statement by choosing the 1 car tonight, and we're not sure if he's going to be able to make it because he's in another very high stakes race tonight. What are the implications for a driver like Aaron, the championship, maybe favorite, missing the first race? We do have 1 drop week, but is that taking a gamble a little bit early?
Sure, it's definitely taking a gamble, but it also speaks to just how confident Aaron Smith is. Aaron is he's very, very sure of himself, and rightfully so. He and Justin Wilson had a battle to the end before Justin ran into some trouble in our last Cup season, and Aaron began to pull away. But if there is one race that you want to take as a drop race, it's probably this one, because the odds of getting caught up in a wreck that's not your fault are really high here. So it makes sense on paper to consider this a drop week anyway. Just hopefully he won't need it anywhere else.
Now, speaking of taking that risk, tonight is all about risk versus reward. How aggressive are drivers going to be, and how early do they start to push the envelope in terms of making their way to the front?
It's a really long race. It's 100 laps. And for me, if I'm sitting in the driver's seat, I'm not getting in too big a hurry here. As long as I'm in touch with that lead pack, preferably either at the very front of it or at the very back of it, I'm not going to worry too much. I think obviously the safest place is to be up front, but if you can get away with riding in the back, I don't think there's anything wrong with riding around in the back and just sort of biding your time and waiting until the end, as long as you maintain touch with the leaders through the various possibly green flag pit cycles that we'll have tonight.
Yeah, and you mentioned that point of pit cycling and drivers taking pit stops. You're going to have to make sure that you have a partner to dance with on the pit stops and come out so you can have the draft and have that extra speed. We'll see how that plays out for some of these drivers, and we'll also keep an eye on which line is moving fastest. We'll at least probably have 2 lines, I would imagine, going an outside and inside for a good portion of the night, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. So we're going to kind of take an unconventional route here, and we'll play the national anthem just a little bit early before we come back to qualifying. But the national anthem this season is played on the guitar by Brett Ellis, who is a member of the band Jedi. You'll be able to see their social media information and website at the end of the anthem. All right, so we're back after that rock and roll rendition of the Star Spangled Banner. If you're just now joining us, I'm Ellis Thomas, joined by my co-host Chris Smith. We're at Daytona for the Apex Energy Cup Series opener, the Apex Energy 250. These drivers are going to be taking 100 laps around this 2.5 mile track. But before we get there, we've got to set the starting grid for this race. Drivers will have 5 minutes to qualify, and their best lap of 2 will be their qualifying time. Now, Chris, we just mentioned in the pre-race a little bit, but how much importance do you place on starting up front in a 100-lap race at a track like Daytona?
I suppose it just depends on your strategy. If you're a guy who wants to ride around in the back for 3/4 of this race, you might not qualify. You might just decide, hey, I'm just going to start at the back, try to stay out of trouble. Maybe you miss the big wreck and be around at the end. But if you're a guy who wants to possibly get up front and lead as many laps as you can possibly lead, you might decide that you want to get out there and that you want to go for it and try to lead every single lap, and the safest place is out front in your mind. So it'll be interesting to see what these guys decide to do, if they decide that they want to, some of them want to start in the back or some of them want to try to start up front.
Yeah, and if you're in the chat on Twitch right now or Facebook, feel free to go ahead and comment and tell us where you think you would like to start. Would you rather start up front, or are you biding your time in the back? You want to be in that action, or do you just want to take it easy for the better part of the race? Let us know in the Twitch chat right now. Right now, we've got our eyes on Scott Sobczak taking his first lap for qualifying in Daytona. So watching him right now, we see him kind of running up towards the top of the track. Talk to us, Chris, about what maybe Scott's doing, because that might not be the fastest way around when it counts.
No, it's not the fastest way around, for your fast lap. But what Scott's trying to do is he's just trying to create a little bit of extra distance around the track. With a restrictor plate on these cars, he wants to try to get this car wound up, try to get a little bit of more RPM into it. And that's what he's doing. He's not running. One thing I noticed is that he's running down a little bit. He's almost running in the middle of the track. We might get on board with one of these other guys and see what they're doing. Looks like Tony Hilbrands, he's doing the same thing here. I haven't run a restrictor plate race in these cars in a very, very long time, so it might be a little bit quicker on your get up speed lap to not necessarily run right up against the wall, but maybe just down a little bit.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that. A little bit more momentum. So we're watching Tony Hilbrands on the track right now, and Tony's going to be broadcasting for us tomorrow night. I know he's excited about that, but before he gets there into that broadcast booth, I think he'd be pretty happy if he could take home a win. He's a guy that we started to see shine a little bit at the end of last season in those next gens. It wasn't the best season for him, but I think he's been looking forward to running this ARCA car. It's probably his favorite car, according to him. So he will be one to keep an eye on tonight. He was very strong during the clash last week. So he's very comfortable running up front and keeping guys pinned down on that inside line.
Yeah, and so far, like you said, Tony put down a pretty good lap right there on his first lap. He's currently P4 on the board. This guy right here, Justin Gann, in the number 30 Chevrolet, he's currently P1 on his first lap. And we'll see. Oh, looks like he was just nipped at the line by Scott Sobzak, who ran a 49.587. Really good lap for Scott. Pretty close across the board there. You would expect that on a plate track with fixed setups, but a lot of guys turning in really good laps.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a pretty tight bunch, other than maybe the likes of Johnny Rapp and Rye Jones and Chase Berry, those payday drivers that are all on the same team, maybe running a similar strategy. So right now we're watching Monty Sprague. He's a newcomer to Slingshot Racing, and he showed a lot of speed early on in that number 3 car. So I'm curious to see what kind of statement he wants to come out tonight and make in the first points paying race. We've got just a little bit over 1 minute remaining in qualifying right now. You can see the starting lineup as it would be right now, with Scott Sobzak on the pole and Monty Sprague second, followed by Tony Hilbrun's your top 3 there. So it looks like at this point, most of these drivers have made a lap. We've got Aaron Smith, who we're waiting to see if he shows up. My bet is probably no at this point. His other race must be going really well. And then we got Patrick Colby, who looks like he's going to be going with the strategy of maybe kind of just starting in the back and working his way up through the field.
Yeah, and like you said, it's just a differing strategy here to see who can outmaneuver. It's like a big old chess game. Who's going to decide to have the aggressive play early, and who's going to sit back and try to wait for all of the carnage to unfold. And like you said, it looks like the payday guys from about 12th on back, looks like they might have sandbagged their lap, along with Chris Pierce in the number 25.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, differing strategies. And we asked the followers and viewers in the Twitch and Facebook earlier, where would you prefer to start if you were in this race? So hopefully we get some thoughts there. And we also want to know who you're pulling for tonight. But for now, we'll go ahead and look at the starting grid for the Apex Energy 250 as the drivers get set on pit road. So on that first row, we've got Scott Sobzak, followed by Monty Sprague on the outside. Tony Hilbrun's is going to be situated in third place, followed by Brady Powers on the outside of row 2. Justin Gann, Slingshot newcomer, is going to be starting 5th, right beside Bailey Dutton in 6th. Fourth row is going to be Chris Blassie on the inside, followed by Lee Campbell on the outside of row 4. Ninth, Austin Greer, another Slingshot newcomer, with Evan Pienta, who is a familiar face, has joined us for a few races last season. Brayton Laster, ARCA driver, is going to be starting in 11th, followed by Randy Bechtel in 12th. Chris Pierce, who actually designed the graphics that you were looking at right now, is going to be starting in 13th. On the outside of row 7, in classic Chase Berry style, Chase Berry. Johnny Rapp in 15th, Rye Jones in 16th, and Patrick Colby is going to be starting in the back. Now, based on what I see, Aaron Smith has not made it to the race, so that'll mean we have 17 drivers tonight. That might not seem like a lot, but 17 is plenty enough to have chaos on the track. And, we're going to talk as we move through the race about avoiding that big one. And we're going to see if these drivers mind their P's and Q's early, or if we've got some guys up front who are looking to mix it up. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on as the cars begin to roll off of pit road. They'll make one pace lap around until we come to the first green flag of the season.
Yeah, and you can expect a fuel window of roughly 42 laps tonight. We expect to see at least 2 stops in this race. And it depends on really where you're running. If you're in the pack, you can save a little bit of fuel. If you're in the lead, you're going to be burning a lot more fuel than those that are up towards like the front leading their lines. So that 42 laps might not be 100% accurate because of the effects of the draft.
Yeah, so we'll just have to see. And we'll be able to probably get a pretty good indication of maybe when drivers start coming down or thinking about coming down pit road. You'll probably start to see a lot of guys maybe move towards the inside, but it's always kind of a scary moment if you've got a driver who knows he's got a pit and he's stuck on the outside. That is a moment where calamity can happen as these drivers begin to make their way into turn 3. We're just half a lap away from the beginning of the 2023 Apex Energy Cup Series.
Yeah, and right now these drivers just making sure they've got their gear situated, they're in the right gear, and they're coming ready to get the green flag.
Now, what's the danger of missing a shift at the start of this race?
It can be a danger, especially if you're got something different going on with your setup. So I'm gonna want to look out for that.
Ace car peels off, and Scott Sobczak and Monty Sprague are going to lead him to the line. Green flag in the Apex Energy 250 at Daytona. So far, we've got a fairly calm start as the drivers head down into the line. With Tony Hilbrun's while Monty Sprague leads that high line. Tony going to take a little bit of a look here. He might just be saying, no, he's going to take it to the outside, and he's going to get that outside line going. It looks like we've got some guys who are dropping back, led by Justin Gannon, that 30. Whether that was intentional or maybe he just didn't like what he saw, those guys are going to back it up to the back of the field, and we'll see that strategy play out through the race. Right now, at top, though, we've got Tony Hilbrun's. And based on what we saw in the clash, that doesn't surprise me that Tony took that high line and is going to probably slot in pretty comfortably there. I am curious to see how he kind of lines up with Monty Sprague, because Tony, his main teammate, is Patrick Colby, who's right now sitting in 13th. So we'll see if Patrick marches to the front and tries to give any help. You see Monty Sprague get a little bit loose, and Chris Blassie in that 15 leading the charge in third place on that inside line, with Austin Greer not too far behind.
Yeah, and the top lane, I know they don't have the numbers, they don't have the cars that the bottom does just by looking at it, but they're very organized. If you know, that's a key part of your line moving, is just trying to get your line as organized as possible. And it looks like these first like 4 guys probably on the outside running really, really tight together. See if Patrick Colby and Evan Pienta can get a little bit closer to these guys. They might be taking it easy back there and just trying to save their stuff.
Yeah, Evan and Patrick are guys who tend to take it easy through most of the race. But you can see Patrick right now working that inside line. It looks like he is definitely going to want to move up through the field as he's kind of trying to pick his line right now. He might be thinking about what line his teammate, Tony Hilbrun's in that 92, is right now. So just as they run, we've got Tony Hilbrun's leading the field, but Scott Sobczak just now took the lead back from him on that inside line. They've been jockeying back and forth for the better part of these first 3 laps. We've got Monty Sprague up top. We can see them getting a little bit of space on that inside line. Brady Powers is sitting in 4th. Chris Blassie in that 15 car in 5th. Lee Campbell in 6th. Patrick Colby, after starting 17th, is up 9 positions. And that just shows you right there how quickly a driver can make their way through the field in these cars at a restrictor plate race. Brayton Laster in 8th. Chris Pierce in 10th, rounding out the top 10. And I would imagine those guys behind him like Pienta, Bechtel, Rapp, and Berry and Jones, as well as we know Gann and Dutton, are all kind of biding their time, a strategy we've talked about. Now, if it's me, racing in one of these races, I've got 2 things on my mind if I'm driving. If I'm up at the front, I could be caught up in a big one, but if I'm back in the back, I suppose anything could happen back there too. If the track is blocked, it might be hard to get by. So that'll be something that these drivers really have to think about, especially as the race goes on. But they come down into turn 1 and turn 2 again, and it's no different. They're 2 by 2 by 2. It looks like Monty Sprague wanted to poke a nose out there but he's going to tuck back in line and push Hilbrand out to about full car length on Scott Sobczak at that inside line. We're on lap 5 right now.
Yeah, I have noticed Monty Sprague looks like he's been poking that nose to the outside, and I don't know if he's doing that on purpose or if he's doing that because he might be getting a slight run and he doesn't want to run into the back. Oh, we got some contact there.
Oh, yeah. Is that Brayton Laster?
Brayton Laster going down the grass. See if everybody...
Yeah, everyone's going to hold on to it, Brayton. Wow. That was a tense moment. Calamity.
It really was.
Ensued. But Brayton Laster is going to hang on to it. We're going to see what caused that contact for Brayton. But right now, all we know is that I think, took every single driver in that field's breath away. Brayton looked like he was going to come back up on the track, and I think it took our breath away as well.
It looked like, to me, Patrick Colby might have gotten into the back of the 14 of Lee Campbell. And we'll just we'll see if we can take a look at this and get this from Patrick Colby's perspective. Oh yeah, just lifted him a little bit. And it's just so hard to bump draft in these cars. So, yep, just a little bit of contact between those two. And Brayton did a great job of gathering it up and keeping it together.
Yeah, and you have to a certain degree, because we don't know what's going to happen here. This race, despite what we just saw, could go green the entire way. We're on lap 7. I know it's early. We haven't seen a caution yet. But Brayton's got to do what he can do to kind of keep that track position. You have that shot there. You can see he's about half the straightaway behind, but that could have been a lot worse. And I think he probably took the best course of action there. But right back up at the front, things look very similar, just minus about 2 cars. We got Tony Hilbrand still working that high line, but he's got a new pusher behind him, a new dance partner, Brady Powers, in that 22 car after starting in the 4th position, is kind of coming back up to the top and looking to maybe solidify his position in this early running order at the top. And Patrick Colby, don't look now after being involved in that last kind of incident we had. He's up to 3rd, and you know he's going to want to get hooked up with his teammate in that 92 car, Tony Hilbrand. But here we see Brady Powers is going to make a move for the lead in that 22 car, and it looks like he's going to take it. He doesn't have a lot of help behind him. Tony's going to do what he can to kind of hold off Sprague, but you see the 45 of Greer duck down too. What are these drivers seeing when Greer kind of makes a move like that? What do you think's going through his head as a driver, Chris?
Well, I just think that maybe he feels more comfortable with getting to the bottom, and he found a hole down there, and he's just like, I'm going to go for that hole. I'm going to try to get there as quickly as I can. You know, some guys, they prefer to run the bottom on a plate track. I've always been one where it's sort of like a double mentality, where I kind of like to run the bottom just because it's easier to miss a wreck from my perspective if I, come across something, because I have an escape route to the apron or to the grass. Whereas on the high side, you don't have anywhere to go. But on the high side, it's just a lot more fun to run up there. You're not as on the gas and as off the gas as much. So it just depends on your perspective. And I bet that Austin he saw a hole there on the inside, and he just wanted to go for that hole and get it, fill that spot.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I would definitely agree with you. It's far more entertaining, especially in a race like Daytona that could get monotonous if these drivers settle out too much. But that inside line can get bogged down, despite what we're seeing right now with Brady Powers coming back to the lead. But you can see Monty Sprague kind of tucks back up to him, and with these drivers' inability to really hit the rear bumper of that car in front of them, it really does see some pretty dramatic changes in momentum, where you can have a driver like Brady Powers pull out, but without Sprague being able to really give him a good push, because those bumpers don't quite line up. You can see right now Brady loses a little bit of ground, and we do see that 92 and the 9 locked up right now, just where they wanted to be. Patrick Colby in that 9 car, after starting in the 17th position, is now up almost 14 positions on the race. He is certainly going to be the biggest mover throughout the race so far to this point on lap 11, as they make their way down into turn 3.
Yeah, what you're seeing right now, it looks like everybody's sort of settling out, kind of wanting to get to the bottom and do some riding, except for the teammates, Tony Hilbrins and Patrick Colby. These two right here are holding really, really strong. And a lot of it's just how tight they're running with one another. We can look at from the rear bumper of Tony Hilbrins right here, and you saw just how close Patrick Colby was to him. The closer and the tighter that you run together, the faster you're going to go here, obviously. And so, he's getting really close to him. This is dicey right here. I'm telling you, contact between these cars, bumper to bumper, usually results in disaster on these restrictor plate tracks. So. I would be very, very cautious. I would be very leery of trying to do any type of bump drafting, as we saw earlier.
Yeah, just like every middle schooler's favorite book, The Most Dangerous Game, Colby and Hilbrins are playing a very dangerous game right now up at the front. It's those two, the 92 and the 9, followed by Brady Powers in the 22, and Lonnie Spray in the 3 car. Then right behind them, we've got Austin Greer, Chris Blassie in the 15. And then Chris Pierce, after starting 13th, has made his way up to the 7th spot, kind of riding on his own an island there, sandwiched in between two kind of smaller packs. Chris Pierce is up 6 positions, so he's moving through the field, and his strategy looks like it might be just to kind of find himself in the middle, running by himself, but he does look like he's going to catch back up to the 3 here. So Chris Pierce is from Virginia. He actually designed all these graphics that you're looking at on screen right now. So if you are interested, you get any graphic overlays for your league or your stream, contact Pierce Graphics. And you can see that information running at the bottom of the screen right now.
Yeah, it looks like he's just taking it real easy. He's just trying to maintain touch with these guys. He's not looking to get up in the mix. He just wants to ride right now, clicking off some laps, which is smart to do in a long race like this one.
Now, back in 15th and 16th, I want to take a quick look at these two drivers, Justin Gann and Bailey Dutton. I know these two guys are teammates, and they've got kind of an interesting strategy because you've got Chase Berry and Ryan Jones and Sobzak back there that are kind of, still keeping touch with the pack, but Gann in the 30 with his teammate Bailey Dutton, they're pretty far back right now. Is there any danger in that strategy? We talked earlier about losing the draft and only having one dance partner. Are 4 cars faster than 2?
It just depends on how smooth of a line that you're running and how close together you're running. See, Bailey Dutton right here is staying pretty close to the rear bumper of Justin Gann. We'll get on board right here just to see what type of speeds they're running. About 194 going down the backstretch right here. And if we go up here to Chase Berry, who's at the very end of this pack right here, it's going about 185, 184. So these guys have a good toe off of the big pack right here. We'll see here. We'll ride on board with them for just a few more seconds here. As you can see them get closer and closer and closer. And that's good information to know, especially later on, especially after green flag pit stops. Are you going to be able to catch back up to a group? And we can see right here, they were back by about 1.3, 1.4 seconds. They got really close together and decided they were going to run really fast, and they pulled right up on them. And I don't have the lap right out in front of me right now, but I'm willing to bet that might be one of the quickest laps of the race so far.
I think you're absolutely right. I'm checking the timing right now. Let's see if I can get a lap time.
Since these guys are out of the top 10, we can't put them up on the top 10 speeds, but
yeah, so those guys just ran their fastest time was a 46.3, and you are absolutely right. That the only lap faster than that was a 45.9 by Evan Piento. So yeah, those are some of the fastest laps of the race, and you saw what a head of steam those guys were coming with. And like you mentioned, it's good information to have for the end of this race to know, look, we can catch a pack of cars, just the two of us, in a matter of, I think that might have been about 2 laps by my count. So that is going to be important information. You can see on the backstretch right now, some of these drivers fanning out a little bit, but we've still got a pack of 16 cars at this point. Brayton Laster with that kind of extreme move in the beginning, drop back. But if we get a caution, he could be easily back in it. Otherwise, he might be looking at some pit strategy to potentially help him get back into it. But without a caution, it's going to be very difficult. But don't rule that out, because we know that these cars, they don't bump draft very well.
Yeah,
so there's always that risk.
Yeah, if you're Brayton Laster, if you're a Brayton Laster fan out there, I wouldn't be too worried. There's a good chance that he could get back in this race. I know that he's pretty far off of the lead pack right now, and if it goes green a little bit longer, he's going to get lapped. But if he can latch on to this pack, and continue racing with them, through the green flag pit cycles, I wouldn't, he'll be in prime position to get a free pass and get back on the lead lap. So don't count him out by any means. His race is not over.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be keeping an eye on Brayton. Brayton just did some testing, I believe, down in Daytona, the real Daytona, that is, from Mullins Racing in an ARCA car. And I believe he was pretty fast on the speed charts. I think he ran the top 3 time, maybe the third fastest time. Does that sound right, Chris? Or somewhere in that area?
Yeah, he was right up there on the speed charts. And Daytona testing in the ARCA cars is always an adventure. Just because there's so many people there with so many different agendas. But he and the Mullins Racing team, they showed up with a lot of speed. So congrats to them on that speed. Hopefully they can show up here in just a few weeks' time for the ARCA race and maintain that speed.
Yeah, and who knows? You might even see a slingshot decal on that car. We'll see. Not ruling anything out. But right now, running order as they stand: Tony Hilbrun's jockeying back and forth with Monty Sprague in second, Patrick Colby pushing his teammate in third, Chris Blassie in fourth, Brady Powers in fifth, and Austin Greer pulling up on the inside in that sixth spot, followed by Chris Pierce and Brandon Bechtel in eighth. Lee Campbell in ninth, Johnny Rapp, Evan Cantor, Rye Jones, all kind of practicing that just wait and see mentality in 10th, 11th, and 12th. Sobzak is in 13th. He's the guy that's run a recruitment race with us that I have to believe he's right in the back right now, and this guy's going to be marching to the front before the end of the race for sure. Rye Jones in 13th, Chase Berry in 14th, Justin Gann in that 30 car in 15th, and Bailey Dutton 16th, followed by Brayton Laster. Running last right now after that early race incident. We are on lap 21 at Daytona. So far, we have not seen anything more than a small scuffle that sent Brayton Laster down onto the runoff area, but he recovered and is still going on the lead lap. So these guys right now, 21, are you getting bored yet if you're in that car? What are you kind of thinking about at this point, Chris? Just, are we in that riding mentality? We're probably somewhere close to about halfway into a fuel run before those pit stops start to happen. Have you even started thinking about that pit stop yet?
Oh yeah, that's probably foremost on my mind, especially if I'm sitting back here and I'm somebody like Chris Pierce, who looks like to me for most of this race has just been riding, taking it easy. Randy Bechtel in the 18. Looks like these guys are just trying to ride, click some laps off and try to get to that pit stop. That's the only thing on my mind at this point is when this pit stop comes, who am I going to pit with? If I've got teammates in this race, I'm probably just going to be communicating with them and seeing, hey, when do we think is a good time to pit? If we come to pit road as a whole, we need to formulate a game plan like, hey, I'm going to be closer to the yellow line. You need to be closer to the wall. That way we don't run over each other trying to pit. These are all things that I think about on a plate race, green flag pit stops, that I'm sure that a lot of these guys are also thinking about. And that's probably the foremost thing on my mind at this point. And we're getting closer and closer to that, so I'm making sure that my fuel is checked and that it's set to fill all the way up. You're probably going to see mostly either 2-tire pit stops or no tires here. And so that's also adds another element in. You got to make sure that you don't slide those tires getting onto pit road.
Very close contact there, maybe between Sprague and the 92 of Hilbrun's. Was there contact?
Yeah, there was. That was really, really tight. They did a nice job there not to overreact. We'll go back and see if we can take a look at it right here. But they rubbed doors just a little bit right there. But hey, everybody did a really nice job. It looks like to me that Monty was up off the bottom just a little bit more than what Tony anticipated. But no harm, no foul. We're still green here at Daytona.
Yeah, that's going to be something to keep an eye on is those drivers who maybe, wander up the track by maybe a third of a car length or a half of a car length. We saw Monty do that a little bit in the Clash. Didn't see any problems result from it, but you got to be at this point aware if you're Tony Hilbrens or the 9 of Patrick Colby that Monty. Oh, we got Evan in the wall a little bit. Pienta and that 0-0 into the wall. Some drivers like Austin Greer take evasive action to miss it, but it looks like that's going to sort itself out at the moment.
I think that started maybe a couple rows up ahead of Evan. It looked like to me that Patrick Colby might have had a slight run on his teammate, Tony Hilbrens, but he did not pull out and pass him. He checked up, got back in line with him, and that might have caused a slight stack-up effect, and that happens here. That happens here at Daytona and Talladega when you're running in a pack, and I think that Evan might have been caught by surprise by that just a little bit and moved up high just to try to keep his car and all the other cars around him in one piece.
And that's the second time tonight we've seen some very alert driving from a couple of drivers, and it almost feels like maybe they took the Apex Energy before the race started for that focus, clarity, and awareness during the race. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see Apex Energy is our premier sponsor for the Slingshot Racing Cup Series, and you can actually go to ApexEnergyDrink.com and get 10% off any of your order. So take them up on that. They're great people. It's a great drink. I personally drink it daily. So these drivers definitely, they're not, they drink it or not, they're looking like they are right now for sure with some of those, evasive actions we've seen on the track to miss what could have been some pretty big wrecks. And I think right now might be a good opportunity just to step away for a brief break as we get closer to pit stops that we're probably expecting within the next 10 to 11 laps. Right now we're on lap 27 of 100 from Daytona. And we are back, and not much has changed up at the front from Daytona and the Apex Energy Cup Series. We're on lap 29 right now. Tony Hilbrand still leading the field, but we are 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 as far back as 10th place right now. We've got Monty Sprague continuing to pester Hilbrands on the inside line with help from Chris Blassie behind him. Earlier we saw Evan Pienta tag the wall a little bit, but it looks like no harm, no foul. Evan's back up to the third car in that outside line, and right now, Chris, can you really pick a line that seems to have more momentum?
It's hard to say. I do I do like what I see out of the top right now. I do like what I see out of Tony, Patrick, and Evan up there. I think that they're just a little bit more organized. They're a little bit tighter together than the guys on the bottom. Guys on the bottom are doing a really nice job, considering they're not running. See, they're not running quite as tight as what Patrick is to to Tony, and they're still maintaining, which speaks to the fact that number one, it's obviously the shorter way around. But also, they're doing a pretty good job of holding a steady line and keeping it straight. So both lines are doing a really nice job, and why we've been able to have this green flag racing. But I just maintain that running the top is just a little bit more easy, just because you're not constantly on the gas and off the gas.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Some guys who have kind of been, just marching quietly in the back, we'll give them a little bit of attention here. Lee Campbell in that 14 car, pretty strong run. He's new to Slingshot, and he is just kind of right now, minding his own business, so to speak. He's taking it easy. He's kind of opting for that wait and see strategy of just kind of riding the back single file, seeing what develops up front. He's got Johnny Rapp in the 52 Mission Barbecue Dodge right behind him, and some of Johnny's teammates, Rye Jones and Chase Berry, lurking not too far back. But these guys are just kind of going with the flow, so to speak, right now, waiting for what could be the big one at any moment. And we've got single file up at the front, but you've got some cars with momentum taking the inside line right now. Evan Pienta and Brady Powers marching up that bottom line, picking up several spots. And Evan Pienta, with a monster run, is going to go to the lead, pushed by Brady Powers. So that happened, man, and it seems like maybe half a lap. That was one of the biggest runs we've probably seen of the race, and that really doesn't surprise me, because if we've been looking at the speed charts, Evan has the fastest lap, and I'm curious to see how fast that lap he just ran was. It wasn't faster than his 45.9, but he's showing that he's got some speed in that 00 car tonight. So Evan is someone that we can probably expect to see mixing it up when this race comes to a close in the final laps of those 100 that we're running tonight.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed there in that whole exchange of positions, before we went back and started looking through the field at some of the guys running a little bit deeper, Tony and Patrick cleared the bottom, and they got sort of single filed out, but they didn't go down and really protect the bottom when that run was coming, which I think just speaks to the fact that they're really comfortable with running on that high side. I think that's where they want to be. I think it's almost like, in the past when people would protect the bottom in plate races on iRacing and in real life. I think that what you're seeing now is more and more people, or these two guys in particular, wanting to protect the top and wanting to try to, maintain that position as leaders of that top line.
Yeah, I do think that when you see those runs come, you kind of got to let them go too, because, man, just looking at the speed, I felt like Evan Pienta, I don't have the data to prove it, but it felt like he was probably at least 6 to 7 miles an hour faster coming down that inside line. And Tony Hilbrins and that 9 of Patrick Colby just had very little choice despite being comfortable up top. So that, again, is going to be something to keep an eye on. Earlier, we saw Justin Gannon, Bailey Dutton run down a pack, probably back about 2 seconds over the course of 2 laps, making up a second a lap. And with those types of speeds, you could potentially have a driver or drivers running, outside the top 10, make a run at the win with 2 laps to go. So I think that's going to make for a really exciting finish. Right now, you can see the top 10 on the right of the screen. Tony Hilbrins continues to lead. Patrick Colby in that 9 car. Second place, Monty Sprague in the 3 car. Familiar car number at Daytona, running 3rd. Chris Blassie in the 15 car. Evan Pienta in the 00 in 5th place. Brady Powers, who has kind of been up and down all night. Right now, he is 2 positions back from where he started. But again, it's Daytona, so he's kind of still staying strong in 6th place, followed by Austin Greer in 7th. Chris Pierce in 8th, Scott Sobzak in 9th, and 10th is Lee Campbell at the moment. He's got Johnny Rapp right on the back of him, giving him a nice little push keep in touch with the main cars in the draft. So right now we are on lap 36. We expect this fuel window to open within just a matter of maybe 2 to 3 laps or less. So it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on these drivers making their first of what will likely be 2 green flag pit stops tonight. We mentioned earlier a couple things to take into account on these pit stops. Probably taking a full tank, but maybe no tires or 2 tires. And you also really need to pay attention to when your teammate or the cars you're working with tonight are going to pit, because you're nothing without someone pushing you. And if you find yourself with a pit road penalty, maybe an accident getting onto pit road, it could be the end of your night very early if you lose, you get separated from the rest of the pack. So on lap 37, just a couple laps away from pit stops, these drivers are starting to feel a little bit nervous. I would imagine a lot of them probably practiced a green flag pit stop, but practice pit stops and real pit stops are 2 different things. Chris and I know that from firsthand experience, and it can ruin a race in a matter of a couple seconds. So these drivers got to start thinking about that. Right now, we've got Chris Blassie making his way to the lead for the first time in the race. Chris started in the 7th position, is now in the lead, and this is the first time we've seen him there all night. And I'm hearing some chatter on the radio, which makes me think we might be getting ready to see some pit stops, but I'm not fully sure.
Yeah, let's give a call to Chris Blassie. He came up there, charged up there, didn't have a ton of help. Evan Pienta was riding a little bit behind him, just kind of taking it easy. But, yeah, he's having a great run and is keeping his nose clean up there.
So we'll go another lap with no pit stops yet. And I'm curious, do you think the entire field pits in one big pack, or do you think we're going to see a couple of groups come onto pit road on different laps?
It's hard to say. I think that we'll probably see a couple of different laps. I doubt that we'll see everybody come all at once. Just because your goal when you do a green flag pit stop on a plate track is try to make up ground on the pack and maybe have some pack separation. And you're not really going to get that if you all come at the same time. So I would be willing to bet that maybe the payday guys, that's a big team of drivers. Patrick Colby and Tony Hilbrand's being teammates. We also talked about Justin Gann and Bailey Dutton being teammates as well. Be willing to bet that you see some pods of teammates try to do it. And I bet that you'll see this 92 and the 9 try to get to the bottom here, because Tony, I'm willing to bet, has probably used up more fuel than a lot of other guys in the field. He's been leading the top lane for a lot of the race, and he probably is a little bit tighter on fuel than his teammate Patrick Colby, who's probably been on the gas and off the gas, been saving a little bit in the draft. So we could be seeing pit stops here any minute now between these next few laps, and here they come.
Here they come. We'll see how these 4 cars, Hilbrand's, Colby, Sprague, and Sobzak, all coming down. 4 cars. Looks like everyone got down to speed. I saw some tire smoke out of Sprague a little bit. We'll see if there's a penalty there for not getting slowed down, but these drivers are going to pull into their pit stops, and we'll see if they can hang on to each other when they come out. See, Colby gets in his stall pretty cleanly. Everyone else looks like they've gotten in their stall pretty cleanly.
And Patrick Colby is moving here. Let's see if these guys can all sort of release together. The 92 is coming off pit road. Looks like all these guys are going to be pretty close together. See if the 3 and the 81 can get single file. If they get single file quickly, they might be able to run these guys down.
We got another car coming down here, and this is an interesting strategy. Chris Blassie, with no dance partner, comes down pit road on his own. So doesn't seem like Chris is working with anyone tonight, and that's going to cost him some speed, but if he comes out with the rest of the pack, he could end up being okay, right, Chris?
He could, and where it might help him actually is when you come to pit road with less cars, you can be a little bit more aggressive on pit road entry. Those guys that we just saw before, Hilbrand's, Colby, Sobzak, and Sprague, those guys have to be a little bit more careful getting onto pit road, and so that might be a situation where he might have been hurt just a little bit, but this looks like a long pit stop. I don't know if Chris Blassie might have a pit road speeding penalty. We'll check and we'll see.
Yeah, I think you're probably correct just based on what I saw with his speed getting in. I think there's a high likelihood, but this seems like a really long speeding penalty.
And it could have been an unsafe pit entry. We didn't have cameras on him, and we don't want to, go away from the battle for the lead right here between Johnny Rapp and Chris Pierce. But yeah, that's unfortunate for Chris, who was doing a really nice job up there.
Yeah, he really was. And we're going to see, look, this lap. We're on lap 43, and I imagine we've got to be in the window. Johnny's been saving some fuel in the back, but maybe we're going to see these cars, and all these payday drivers will come down at the same time. And
Oh, yeah.
here we go. We got a big party. We got a car spinning, and that is that Laster spinning in the back again. We've got several cars in the infield. Looks like we've got Brady Powers in the infield, and that is going to stay green. So, man, that was chaos coming into pit road. I think we might have had. I'm just looking at my replay right here. I believe that was Justin Gann in the 30 as well, who had some issues getting on the pit road. No, that was not Gann. Gann and Dutton are still out on the track. That was Brayton Laster, I believe, who struggled getting onto pit road, and we'll go back and take a look at that. But despite that chaos on pit road, we are still green on lap 44 with some pit stops from the leaders probably coming up this lap, and that leaves most cars, I believe, having pit. We've got the top four who are yet to pit. That's Campbell, Gann, Dutton, and Pierce. And that was probably a good call on their part to avoid pit road that time by.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I think that a lot of people had some pit road speeding penalties there. It just seemed like everybody was charging in and was a little bit afraid that they were going to get run over on pit entry. Obviously, Brady Powers has got problems. He's still here in the pits. Looks like he's rolling now. He probably had a penalty that he got held for. I don't think he has too much damage. I don't think anybody has too much damage. So that's a positive. But what it's done is it's really broken up this pack. Patrick Colby and Tony Hilbrens are your leaders, or they're going to cycle out to be your leaders, excuse me, when this all shakes out. When the 30 of Gann, the 26 of Dutton, and the 14 of Lee Campbell pit as they go past the 45 of Austin Greer here on the backstretch.
Yeah, so right now the cars that have not pit include the 30 of Gann, his teammate Bailey Dutton, and Lee Campbell. You're watching right now. You can see these guys working together. We expect that pit stop to be coming up on any moment, but like Chris mentioned, Patrick Colby and Tony Hilbrens will inherit the lead after these pit stops. I would imagine are probably coming this lap as they cross over onto the 47th lap.
Yeah, and what we're seeing here is we've got a pack of 5 cars up here, led by Patrick Colby. These are all lead lap cars, with the exception of the 15 of Blassie, who's in the back of this pack right here. He's 1 lap down, and we'll see right here once this all shakes out, sort of like where he stands. He's going to obviously be the first car 1 lap down. Dutton and Campbell and Gann, looks like those guys have all saved a lot of fuel. They're still riding around out here.
Here they come.
Here they come to pit road.
These 3 cars, Dutton, Campbell, and Gann, are going to give up the lead to come on the pit road. You saw Dutton get a little bit loose there, putting on those brakes at the last minute, but nowhere near the chaos that we saw just a couple of laps ago that took a lot of these cars that were running up front. Is going to give them kind of a challenge the rest of the race. But it looks like all these cars get in their stalls cleanly, and it doesn't look like there's an issue at this point.
Yeah, so now here's going to be the race. How fast have these guys been running? How fast have Gann, Dutton, and Campbell been running? Were they running fast enough lap speeds to where they can shake out here in front of Colby, Hilbrens, and Pienta? It's going to be tight. We'll see where they come out at. They did a really nice job getting on.
Start-finish line. So Dutton coming into 1, it's going to be very close, but I think Colby and Hilbrens and Pienta are going to be able to get them on momentum. You can see them coming around the corner here, and the pack is going to pass these guys, but they will have each other to help out. So all hope is not lost, and keep in mind, a lot of those cars are a lap down just from that earlier incident getting onto pit road that we saw. So we'll see things kind of finally shake out here in a moment. But
If I'm Lee Campbell right here, sorry to interrupt, Ellis. If I'm Lee Campbell right here, I'm hollering at these guys right here, saying, "Hey, you've lost the pack. Slow down. We can run a lot quicker with 3 cars than just 2." And it looks like he has these guys. I think he's going to be okay. So, like you said, they're going to be able to run quick enough where all hope is not lost.
Yeah, and he's channeling his inner Sonic the Hedgehog speed as he tries to catch up to the back of these 2 guys. And right now, Gann and Dutton are sitting in 7th and 8th with Lee Campbell right behind. And I believe, so it looks like all the cars now are on the lead lap again. That might be my telemetry giving me some misreads.
Yeah, I think that we've got Brady Powers is going to be the first car a lap down. In fact, he's fighting to get back onto the lead lap right here. He's leading that inside line. He's the first car 1 lap down if he is behind the leader, which he is right now, along with Austin Greer in 13th. He's the 3rd car on the inside. Chris Blassie in the 15. And Johnny Rapp is also, looks like, a lap down as well. So a lot of guys had some penalties. A lot of guys had some issues. We had some pass-through penalties that had to be performed. Unfortunately, my session events are not working, so it's a little bit hard for me to see what happened. But we saw what happened on the camera. There's a lot of chaos in that one lap of green flag pit stops.
Yes, I'm trying to see if I can see the cars involved in that, but my session events are struggling to load as well. So right now we're just stuck with what we know, and that is that several cars ran into some issues on pit road. Cars including Randy Bechtel, Brady Powers, Austin Greer, all found themselves in trouble. But one car that I am interested to see only a lap down is that 15 car of Chris Blassie, who seemed like he was serving a really extended penalty on a pit stop earlier. He's in 14th, but he's only a lap down and he's in the draft. So I think that is commendable for Chris to be running where he is, despite what the trouble he seems to have had throughout earlier in this race. Now, if you're these guys, if you're the likes of Rye Jones and Justin Gann and these guys, how much harder are you racing as the lead pack passes Chris Pierce? How much harder are you racing, Chris, if you're a lap down? Is your mentality kind of different as you run in the pack than it was when you were not a lap down?
Definitely, yeah. And I hate to be like this because I've always been of the mentality of when I'm a lap down, I show deference to the leaders, and I always try to, make sure that, I don't insert myself into a battle. But when it comes down to it, if the guys that you're racing with, to get back on the lead lap, you're racing for that lucky dog free pass, you gotta sort of mix it up a little bit with them, and you're kind of forcing each other into a box, and sometimes you wind up getting up in the middle of the pack. Like, I'm willing to bet that Brady Powers probably isn't, he doesn't want to necessarily be up here mixing it up with the leaders, like, inserting himself into the battle for the lead, but he has to because Austin Greer is just right here, 3rd car on the outside, that number 45 Georgia Pacific car. He's got to stay in front of him. If he falls behind him and the caution comes out, he misses out on that free pass. So this is, you work yourself into a really, really difficult spot here on a plate track if you find yourself in the middle of the pack but a lap down.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. This racing up front seems to have picked up a little bit. You can see Brady Powers really forcing the issue, and I am curious if we might get Brady Powers on the radio. Are you interested in doing that, Chris?
Sure, let's go for it.
Let me see if we can cue him in here. Just a second. Brady Powers, this is the Slingshot broadcast booth. You have a copy.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you are up front, but you're not up front. You are currently in the 12th position, a lap down. First question for you, is that racing feel harder up at the front right now with all these lap cars trying to get their laps back?
A little bit. I'm having to look at a lot on my relative right now, watching Austin. Austin is the second car, looking for a lucky dog right now, and I'm just trying to help keep him back there. Right now I've got Evan behind me, and Evan's really helping me out. Patrick and Tony are really pinning me down, though, on the corners, so it's getting hard.
Yeah, so their strategy that they talked about earlier is working. Hey, for a second, can you briefly walk us through what happened on pit road from your perspective with all that chaos?
So me and Evan had a plan to follow the payday guys down to pit road just so we can have a big group. And whenever we did that, he announced it a little too late, and so I had to lock him up. I tried to avoid all contact with everybody else, and I think I did a pretty good job of that, but I did get a 40-second penalty, so that kind of put me down a little bit.
Well, all things considered, you're still in okay shape, just a lap down, so we're going to be keeping an eye on you. One caution and everything could change. So good luck the rest of the race. We'll let you go. Thanks for joining us, Brady Powers, in the 22 car.
Thank you, sir.
All right, so you heard it from Brady there. Multiple drivers got black flags on that series of pit stops. Brady got a 40-second pit stop, which set him back. And right now, as we mentioned earlier, he's battling for that first car lap down position with the 45 of Austin Greer as these cars pass Randy Bechtel, who I believe is going to go now 2 laps down potentially, or is he on the...
He's now 1 lap down, and that's just going to make things even more interesting here. You know, Randy is one. We've seen Randy quite a bit in plate races over the years here in Slingshot. He's one to ride usually in these plate races. I'll be curious to see if he decides to get up there and start mixing it up with these guys. If he wants to sort of go for that lucky dog, or if he wants to maybe wait for some chaos to ensue and try to get his laps back that way. So it'll be interesting to see what Randy decides to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. We are going to take just a quick break as we cross over onto lap 58. We've got 43 laps remaining, and really the outcome is anything but clear at this point. A caution could change the complete complexion of the race. We're going to step away for just a second to hear from our partners, and we will be right back. How do we get these one-of-a-kind amazing trophies? Well, we were fortunate to find UD Awards when we started our league. We reached out and we connected with Christopher, and we got started designing these one-of-a-kind works of art. The process was easy from start to finish. After just a few revisions, we finalized each one of them, and the team at UD got to work building each trophy from scratch. They're a small team, but they've got the ability to do just about anything your brain can imagine. And don't worry, if you're not an artist, they've got an entire catalog of unique trophies in pretty much any material you can imagine. Wood, acrylic, glass, and in the case of last season's trophy, metal. The best part, they're affordable. If you're looking for a trophy for your event or league, the choice is simple. UD Awards can give you exactly what you want. Are you looking for high-quality, affordable sim racing paint schemes and graphics? Then look no further than Evan at Evan Pienta Designs. Driven by speed, Evan Pienta Designs offers a multitude of sim racing graphics, from liveries to social media graphics to team and series logos. To see some of the work done by Evan, or even race one of the public liveries he's made, head on over to tradingpaints.com and search Evan Pienta. All right, Slingshot Racing League presenting the Apex Energy Cup Series is back live at Daytona. We are crossing over onto lap 61 with just 40 laps remaining, and it was what has been a fairly eventful race to this point, as you see the leaders coming up on a lap car of Monty Sprague. Right now, Patrick Colby and Tony Hilbrunds have been teaming up for a large portion of this race to, I would say, dominate the better part of it. Yeah, that was a bit of a close call there. Evan Pienta, Scott Sobczak, and Chase Berry are going to round out the top 5. But right now, we've got some close action going on up front with a lot of bump drafting. And part of the reason why the intensity has picked up, as we saw before the break, Brady Powers in that 22 car, that lead car on the inside line being pushed by Evan Pienta in the 00, is battling the third car on the outside line, that red, white, and blue 45 of Austin Greer. These guys are battling for to be the first car a lap down, which could be hugely impactful if a caution were to come out, because they would get their lap back and pretty much have a clean slate for the remainder of the race. So you're going to see these drivers going back and forth, I would say, pretty much until the end of the race if we don't get a caution, to see who can be that first car a lap down. But it's 2 by 2 by 2 all the way through about 8th place right now, as we see the outside pick up a little bit of momentum. You can see Greer really up to a pretty high speed of what's going to be around 194, 195 headed into turn 3, just to show you how quickly these cars can get a run. So Chris, do these guys have any other option if a caution doesn't come out?
No, I mean, they're kind of stuck. That's what they're hoping for. I'm just going to say that the odds of us making it to the end of this thing caution-free are slim to none. As good as these drivers are, and they are very good, they're proving it right now, it's going to be you're asking a lot, especially when we know how these things can get in the last 10, 15 laps of a plate race. Things can get really, really crazy and chaotic, and it's going to be tough. You're asking a lot of these guys to go green to the end. So if I'm Brady Powers, if I'm Austin Greer, I'm not getting too bent out of shape. I'm not getting too crazy. We see these guys up in the mix, but we see some other guys who are laps down that are just kind of taking it easy.
There's the big one right there. The 9 and the 22 get together, collecting Sprague in the 3, and this one's going to take out about 3 cars, and there's that caution that we were just talking about. That's going to be the end of the night probably for the 9 car, who was running very strong all night. He spins it around, and he cannot be happy right now. We're going to take a look at what brought that caution out. But Patrick Colby seems to be the biggest victim in that. The other car that I know was involved was Brady Powers, kind of seeing what kind of damage he might have as we look at the replay right now.
Yeah, it just looks like to me that the 9 was expecting the 22 to probably be just a little bit closer to the yellow line than what he was. We'll try to take a look at it from a high perspective here. Yeah, it just looks like to me he was expecting it to be just a little bit lower, and yeah, there's a lot of space to the inside right there, and they come together. Unfortunately, Monty Sprague gets a good bit of damage in that deal, but let's take a look at a guy who was able to skirt his way through that. This number 25 of Chris Pierce. We're going to go on board with Chris from his roof cam right here and check out the way he navigates through this deal. He was just taking it easy. He was waiting it out right here. You can see the 9 and the 22 get together. And he's on the brakes, and he shoots the gap right there. A little bit of contact, a little bit of net code, it looked like, with the 00 of Evan Pienta, but those guys did a really nice job of not making a situation worse than what it was.
Yeah, and that was another example of we got some really quality drivers, and sure, there might have been a bit of a mistake made by either one of those top 2 cars, but the fact that we only had 3 cars really suffer any damage on that is pretty impressive. And right now we've got these cars coming down pit road, and one thing we should probably point out is with just 35 laps remaining, this will bring them within their fuel window to finish the race without another pit stop. Tony Hilbrunds is going to come out off pit road first. But one thing to keep an eye on, Tony's dance partner, Patrick Colby, was involved in that crash. So he's going to be really a man alone potentially for the rest of the race unless he's got other friends that we don't know about. But honestly, with 5 laps to go, you kind of go with who's going with you, and teammate rules might not be as relevant those final 5 laps. So
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how bad the damage is for Patrick. I don't know if he got a meatball. It was kind of hard to tell if that thing was tracking after the contact, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what transpires here in the once we get back going. But yeah, that's really unfortunate. I hate that for those guys that were involved. They were doing a really nice job. Brady was racing hard. He was trying to get his lap back. You can't fault a guy for getting his lap back. Obviously, as a guy who's a lap down, you don't want to get involved in the like who might get damage based upon any of your actions. But one thing I've noticed is we got a couple guys right here, the 18 and the 52, Randy Bechtel and Johnny Rapp. They're going to take the wave around here and get themselves back on the lead lap. Obviously, they got some fuel here. They can go a little bit further. So let's see what happens here. If we get a long green flag run, obviously, to the end, these guys are going to be in trouble because they're going to have to pit again. But that we might get another quick caution, and these guys could get back on the lead lap. And obviously, they're going to be back on the lead lap here, but they could cycle through here. So, be interesting to see what happens.
If my math is correct, which I'm a history teacher, so it very likely might not be, those guys came in on lap 45. So, yeah, they went longer than the rest of the field, but right now it's still going to be a little bit too much. So, they are going to have to make a pit stop. I know a couple guys came in on lap 48, and I thought, well, maybe those guys might have a chance at stretching it a little bit, but the 18 car and the 52 of Bechtel and Rapp are not going to be those cars that might have a chance at extending a little bit. As they line up 2 by 2, we are getting ready to come to the restart. We've still, just to stack things back up, we've got Tony Hilbrins in the lead, now without a draft partner. Scott Sobzak in the 81. Evan Pienta in the 00. Rye Jones, up 12 spots from the beginning of the race, is going to be sitting in 4th place. And Lee Campbell is going to round out the top 5 as the pace car gets ready to peel off, and these drivers are going to come to the green flag. Lap 68 begins, 33 laps to go, and right now we've got 12 cars on the lead lap. So anyone's game, 12 cars or even more, if we have another caution, can win this race.
Yeah, and Patrick Colby was able to get his damage fixed and get back out there. Unfortunately, Monty Sprague, looks like Monty has bigger issues, and he has a lot more he got more damage in that deal. So hate that for Monty as these guys work their way down the backstretch.
And right now, does it surprise you that for just a moment at least the 92 was the only car on the outside? Exactly what we talked about might happen, and it looks like Lee Campbell is going to pick him up on that outside of the second car on the outside, but Tony is going to be okay, I think.
Yeah, he's going to be okay, and it looks like his drafting partner.
Oh, here he comes.
Not to be denied. Here comes Patrick Colby up through the middle, looking to get back in this thing.
Yeah, wow. So that's a quick turn of events.
Yeah, look at him coming up through here. He's not taking it easy by any means. He's wanting to get back up here with his teammate as these guys on the outside have a run down this backstretch. And it looks like Hilbrins and Campbell are going to clear the bottom, but they're not going to pull down. I guarantee you, Tony's got a plan. He's got a plan tonight, and he does not want to give up that top. Campbell's going to make it 3 wide, but you know where Colby's going to go.
Yeah, Colby's going to go with a 92, and I suspect the 14 is going to be hung out to dry, and he's probably going to drop back to about 10th place with that move. So Is that a move you would have made? I don't mean to kind of be critical here, but is that a mistake on the part of the 14, or is it too early to even matter?
It's too early. I would say it's probably too early, but that's also, this is the first race that a lot of these guys have raced together. It was like it's Ryan Jones.
Loose there.
Yeah, he's going to bail out and go to the back, I think. But, Lee Campbell might not know that that Tony and Patrick are teammates. So if that's something that he knew, he might not have made that move. It's just, the first race that a lot of these guys are racing together, and that's something that they'll learn about each other as the season goes on.
Oh, contact a little bit between the 81 and the 92. I'm not sure what happened to Sobzak. What kind of forced him up the track? He just washed up a little bit and almost doored that 92 of Hilbrun. So we've got some action going on up front right now. And Sobzak, the pole sitter, looks like he's trying to reclaim the lead for really the first time since probably the first 5 laps or so, with his 81 Square D car on the inside as they roll down the backstretch on lap 71. The Apex Energy Cup Series has just under 30 laps to go before they see their first checkered flag of the season at Daytona. And if we look back at the back, I want to revisit this 30 and the 26 car back in 11th and 12th. Gann and Bailey Dutton, they've been keeping the same strategy pretty much all race long, and they're finding themselves on the lead lap. The last car is on the lead lap. Are they sitting where you think they want to be sitting at this point?
I think they're very content to be right here. Just looking at their experience, Justin Gann has almost a 5,000 I rating. Bailey Dutton almost a 4,000. These guys, they got a lot of experience. They've been doing this. I think they handled the pit cycle before very nicely. I know that they came out behind the leaders, but I think that if they could have just run a little bit quicker lap times, I think that they would have been okay. But I think that they're sitting well, and I think that they're probably really, really happy with where they're sitting. Now, one thing I do want to mention right now, while we got a chance, Johnny Rapp and Randy Bechtel are sitting back here, sort of riding back behind the pack with their payday teammates, along with Gann and Dutton. I guarantee you what they're trying to do right now is trying to get Randy and Johnny as far as they can on fuel. We don't have a throttle trace in these cars, but I'm willing to bet this 18 and this 52, they're running as little throttle as they possibly can. They're trying to save as much as they can, because if we pull up their info right here, we can see. Give me 1 second and I can pull that up. We can see that right now on this stint, they've run 29 laps. All right, and we compare that with the 92 of Hilbrun's, who's just 8 laps into his stint. So, that's the downside of doing that wave around. But they're in that position; they had to do it. So I think it was the right call.
They had no choice.
Yeah, it was 100% the right call. And right now, they're hoping for a caution. I think they're trying to just save as much as they can to try to go as many laps as they can before that caution comes out.
Hey, and based on the way these drivers are driving up front, you wouldn't know that there's still just nearly 25 laps left, because they are driving like it's the last 5 laps right now. As you can see, Sobzak and Hilbrun's really get close once again, and Hilbrun's kind of leans on the door a little bit of the 81. I'm not sure if that was intentional, maybe to send a message to Sobzak, who ran him up the track just a little bit earlier, or that was just kind of incidental. But right now, Hilbrun's leads the field, and we've talked about him being comfortable as the leader on that outside line most of the night. And now that he's got his draft partner back of Patrick Colby, I would say Tony's probably feeling pretty confident about his chances right now. But don't count out Austin Greer, who was able to get his lap back on that last caution we had and march his way all the way up to 4th place, the 3rd car in line on that top row. He stayed in the top 6, 7 most of the night. He's a slingshot newcomer, and he is looking to kind of make a statement tonight to see if he can put himself into victory lane in his first ever slingshot race. Meanwhile, Chris Pierce is going to pull up to the back of him, and Pierce has got a pretty strong car, but Pierce is 2 laps down, so unless something drastic happens, Pierce, although making a good show of speed right now, is out of contention for the win.
Yeah, the battle for the free pass right now is going to be between the 22 of Brady Powers and the 15 of Chris Blassie right now. And one thing I've noticed for Brady, obviously, that was a situation that he did not want to have happen. He didn't want to have any contact with the leaders. Not assigning blame or anything like that. But that's, you don't want that. He's taking it really easy here. I've noticed he's given a lot more of a gap to the 81. He might be a little bit gun shy after the contact with the 9. So he might just be taking it a little bit more easy. And he probably feels like he can take it a little bit more easy because Blassie is not directly behind him, but 2 cars back. And he probably doesn't feel like he can get that run that quickly in order to pass him before a caution might come out. So it's like Brady is just content to just ride right here and try to get that free pass from this position.
Yeah, it would seem that you are correct about that. One thing I do want to revisit for just a moment is, like you mentioned, that backpack of Bechtel, Rapp, Chase Berry, Rye Jones, all those payday cars. At what point do they stop working together, trying to help each other make it on fuel? Is it when those 2 cars have to make their inevitable pit stops, probably about 10 laps from now?
Well, if Randy and Johnny have to make their pit stops, before a caution were to come out, that still leaves, you got Rye Jones and Chase Berry. Those guys can still work together. They still got a chance to make their way up through the pack. Obviously, they would like to have all 4 of them up there battling it out for the win. I expect that they'll work together all the way until the very end. We saw that in the Clash. We saw Chase, Rye, and Johnny all go up to the 3rd lane. They made the 3rd lane work when we really hadn't seen anybody doing it all race long. And so if it comes down to it and they're still too wide like this, I'd expect to see those payday guys up on that 3rd lane. I'd expect to see them trying to roll that 3rd lane, stay tight together. And if Tony and Patrick do what I think they'll do, they'll probably be very, very cognizant of that, and they'll probably try to block that off. I feel like maybe in the Clash last week, they maybe wish they had. I know that Patrick had some trouble, and they kind of got separated a little bit, so they might be a little bit more aggressive in defending that run on that 3rd lane if those guys were to make it. But it might not even be them making it. It could be any one of these guys making a run up on that 3rd lane. If you get enough guys to go up there, run tight enough together, you can make it work.
Absolutely. Even 2 or 3 cars would be enough to maybe push the car out to the lead on that 3rd row up top. Is right back up at the front right now. It's nothing. Nothing has changed. These cars have been 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 all the way through 10th. At least 10 cars. Pretty much the entire race. The order has changed plenty because we've had several lead changes over the course of this race. But the one thing that has remained constant is that side-by-side action with Tony Hilbrand's in that green car, that green number 92 machine, leading the way. But these 2 guys right now are not really giving each other much room. You can see Sabzak in that 81 not afraid to move up the track by maybe a set of tires, and the 92 not afraid to pinch them down a little bit. As the race goes on and we near just 20 laps to go, at what point does maybe that room that they're giving each other, albeit slight, go away? At what point do the gloves come off? Are we talking about maybe 10 laps to go, 5 laps to go, or even less than that? Because we've seen cars as far back as 10th place make moves all the way up to the front with, within 2 laps. So that'll be something to keep an eye on for sure as we ride on board right now with Brady Powers, who is a lap down, looking to make his way back up to the front right now with just 18 laps left in the race.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention as we do get closer to the end, a lot of people, probably had the ideas of how restrictor plate racing works in real life NASCAR racing. Obviously, there's a lot of crossover between them. One thing that is a little bit different between that and this is that you can't do it all in one lap in this. You have to work to build up your momentum and your runs. And it takes a couple laps to get that momentum going and, to work a run up. I would not, if I'm riding in that very, very backpack where we see a lot of the payday guys running, I would not want to wait until the very last lap and try to make that top work, or even 2 to go to make that top work. I'd be thinking like 5 to go. All right, let's try to start moving now, because when you get down to it at the very end, you want to have time in case your plan doesn't work as well, to be able to formulate maybe a second
A
plan.
little bit of contact there between the 92 and the 81. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's a 45.
Yes.
Yeah, Austin Greer's getting really aggressive right here. We saw him make a move down to the inside lane. That was a very aggressive move. And then the 92 and the 45 also get together. I think Austin Greer has been wanting to get behind Scott Sobczak. I think that he wants to be a little bit more aggressive maybe with the push. And he maybe saw that gap between Brady, because I think Brady's kind of taking it easy, not wanting to insert himself into the battle for the lead, just wanting to get his lap back. And one thing that Austin, probably wants to be very careful of is, just trying to keep that thing steady, don't bounce off the apron, because as we've seen, you can make some contact with the apron and that can shoot you into that that lane on the outside, and that can trigger a big wreck.
All it takes is one misstep, and once again, we almost saw that big one break out. We had a 3-car incident earlier on in the evening, but have remained green for the better part of the race. But I suspect we are not far away from catastrophe, with Greer continuing to be aggressive, and the 9 of Patrick Colby continue to aggressively kind of try to push his teammate out to the lead. We know those 2 cars, the 92 and the 9, want to be up top, so that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But Greer, he's not holding anything back right now. This is the most aggressive we've seen Austin, that 45 car, all night. He's kind of bided his time. He's been patient. He's been a gentleman. But with just 15 laps to go at this point, the gloves are starting to come off for these drivers.
Yep, it's time to go. There's nothing wrong with it. They're getting really, really close together here off of turn 2. Greer got really close to the back bumper of Sobczak, but one thing that I'm seeing is that bottom lane is having more success now, since Greer is getting closer to the back bumper of Sobczak. The closer they run together, obviously the faster they're going to go. And we've seen Hilbrins and Colby kind of hold that inside line at bay until this point right here, where Sobczak has poked a nose out front, but here they come back.
And Greer pokes a little bit of a nose out there, but I would imagine he's not going to be too eager to make a move like that with about 14 laps to go. That's more of like a last lap sort of move, I would imagine, if you're Austin Greer. And right now, they remain 2 by 2 by 2. If you are Hilbrins, do you see what's going on that inside line, and do you make an adjustment, or do you pretty much keep the strategy that's gotten you to where you are?
I think I'm pretty happy to stay where I'm at. I like being in that top lane. I like being in the top lane coming to the checkered flag. I just feel like all of the energy is probably going to be up there in that area coming to the checkered flag. If I had a choice, that's where I would want to be. I would also want to be the leader. You hear some people asking, well, would you much rather be second, or would you much rather be, where would you want to be coming to the checkered flag? I would want to be the leader of that outside line. I would want to be exactly where Tony's at in the 92. I would not want to have to make that move. I would want them to have to take it from me.
Yeah, I think you want to be in that position of power. And I agree with you 100% on that. Now, just a quick check of the numbers here. I'm looking through the field, and while we've got several slingshot mainstays who have raced with us for a couple seasons, you've seen a really aggressive push by the 45. I don't see but one driver in this field who has won a Slingshot Racing League race in 3 seasons, and that's Randy Bechtel. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did Chase Berry win one, Chris?
Well, Chase Berry won the Clash, but talking about points paying races, I think that you're right.
Yeah, we see Austin Greer. Man, this is the onboard shot you've got on right now. You could not stick a paper between those two bumpers, and we've talked about it all night long. You go too hard, and those cars can get turned around real fast. We saw it happen early on with Patrick Colby. So that's going to be something we keep an eye on. With just 12 to go, these drivers are getting ready to kind of, buckle their seat belts really tight, put their hands, grip them harder on the wheel, and last 10 laps, that's what pays the money in these races. And it's going to be no hold barred for most of these guys out here. We've got a couple lap cars in this front pack. I believe we've got Chris Pierce, who's a lap down. We got Brady Powers as a lap down. Chris Blassie in the 15 is a lap down, but everyone else, based on what I'm seeing, is on the lead lap. So we've got easily anyone, honestly, up till through the top 12 can win this race. As I'm looking at the back of the field right now, and guess who's creeping into the picture? The 7 car, the 5 car, the 18 car. And here we go. The 18 and the 52 are coming down pit road. They cannot hold on any longer. Their fuel is out, and without a caution, their race is over with just 10 to go. But the payday drivers in the 7 and the 5 are sure to be teaming up with just 10 to go at Daytona.
Yeah, those guys
did
they did a really nice job of hanging on as long as they did. They saved a lot of fuel. We'll see what happens here. Their race might not be over if we can get a caution.
Yeah, right now Evan Pienta slipping back just a little bit, but we see right now Hilbrins and Sobzak still battling for the lead. Colby's got his dance partner. And now I'd imagine the 45 and the 81 have worked pretty well all night.
No!
So these two guys, I say that, and oh my goodness, disaster almost as I'm talking about how well they've worked together all night. The 45 just gave it, looked to me like just a little bit too hard of a bump, and that is a danger we've talked about. But Pierce, who is 2 laps down, is going to start a high line. It looks like he's got to be careful. As a lap car, you don't want to get too mixed up in the action here and dictate the outcome of a race.
Yeah, Austin Greer is being very, very aggressive right now with the push. If I'm Scott Sobzak, I am hollering on that radio. Please stay close to me, but please don't actually touch me. That's a recipe for disaster here.
Yeah,
and he did a nice job there. He backed off.
We had 3 lines going for just a moment, but it looks like they've sorted themselves out back to 2 by 2 by 2. The biggest change really is Evan Pienta, I feel like, is whether he's intentional or he is unintentionally being held back. It's just kind of slotted back into that 9th position on the track. He's running in 6th, but he's got a couple of lap cars in front of him. And I'm curious to see at what point, with just 8 to go, Evan starts to make his way through the field.
Yeah, I mean, he might be waiting on. He might be. Oh, the 45 is going to turn the 81 around.
Yep, 45's around. He gets into the 15 of Blassie. We see Barry makes an evasive, extreme maneuver onto pit road. And it looks like we're going to get away with most cars not having too much damage, Chris, but that had been a long time coming between Greer in the 45 and the 81 of Sobzak. They've gotten away with it for the better part of the race, but the bumpers did not line up that time. It did not look like, and we are under caution with 7 to go. And just a reminder, we do have 2 attempts at a green-white checkered in the Slingshot Racing League. So let's take a look at what happened here as we go on board with Sobzak.
Yeah, it just looked like to me the 45, he just got to him, and he was just trying to run as close as he could to him, and it just lifted him up and took him around. One thing that I did notice, we'll go back and we'll try to get a look at some of these other guys that got through here. Evan Pienta, looks like he made a little bit of contact with the 15 just in front of him. We'll ride on board with Evan right here, and we'll see just how severe the damage might be for him. The 81 starts spinning. He lights him up. 15 makes a little bit of contact. That's the 15 of Chris Blassie, who is also trying to get back on the lead lap. I hate that for him as well.
So Brady Powers is going to take the lucky dog. It looks like, unless he was involved in that.
Yeah, and Chris, he just he had nowhere to go. I think he was a little bit unsure. I think where the 81 was going to go. Let's take a look at this evasive maneuver by Chase Bear. It goes all the way to the inside wall. Then he's got to get back to the right to keep from getting a pit road penalty. Goes through the grass, and he just keeps on trucking.
Yeah, that was very well executed. And we have talked about it. That would have likely been a black flag that was cleared if that was an evasive mover to avoid a wreck. But regardless of the situation, Barry does a masterful job of keeping it off of pit road and avoiding that iRacing penalty. But yeah, it looks like just what we talked about. And I've been in that situation you have before where you're
Justin Gann did a nice job too. Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
he did a really nice job.
Look at that. Wow. Barely missing Sobczak and Blassie coming back down the track. So, yeah, we've been in that situation before. You're following a driver closely behind, and they just blip the throttle, or there's enough of change in momentum where there's no time to react. And that's the chance you take. At Daytona, it's the chance you take. We saw the 45 taking that chance the entire time from at least the last 10 laps or so that we were watching that. So we are setting ourselves up. If you're tuning in now, we're coming out of a caution that has taken out a couple of the leaders. We are going to have looks like a 3 to 4 lap shootout for the first race of the Apex Energy Cup Series season. And right now, I am counting 12 cars, and Brady Powers will be the recipient of the lucky dog, I believe. That will put 13 cars in the lead lap, Chris. 13 cars could win this race. Reasonably, as they line up, they are going to be coming to the green, which will mean we will have a 4-lap shootout, which is even better for those cars kind of in the back. And I thought Brady Powers was going to get the lucky dog, but it doesn't look like he will. Austin Greer is going to be in 12th. He will be the last car on the lead lap, and I'm pretty sure he received an EOL for being ruled kind of the cause of that accident, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and one thing that I do want to mention is Johnny Rapp and Randy Bechtel. Caution worked out perfectly for them right after they got done with their pit stop. Those guys are safely on the lead lap, and they got a shot to win this thing as we come down to it. Looks like Evan Pienta is going to be the first guy off of pit road. We missed the pit stop because we were looking at the wreck, but he's going to be the first guy off of pit road with tires, full load of fuel. We'll see what he can do. And Bailey Dutton and Justin Gann stayed out. They've decided that they want to take the track position, get up to the front of this thing. They've been at the back all race long. Let's see what they got.
So we've got lots of teammates who are lining up. You've got the 9 and the 92. You've got the 30 and the 26 of Bailey Dutton. And you've got the 5 and the 7, but don't, like you mentioned, count out Bechtel and Rapp as the leaders roll on to the front stretch. This is going to be a 4-lap shootout at Daytona. After nearly 100 laps, the pace car pulls off, and Tony Hilbrands is going to lead them to the green flag.
Well, Hilbrands gets a really good jump, and I'm surprised that Hilbrands and Colby didn't execute that a little bit better. I would think that they would be communicating with each other to maybe try to get a jump on the field, but I guess they've decided it's all bets off at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a miscommunication, but Hilbrands is going to look to stay on the bottom, and he's going to let... I'm curious if he jumps up when that 9... There you go. Yeah. That's what we thought might happen.
The 9's getting a run, but we can see the third lane starting to form.
Yeah, the 13 or the 14 of Lee Campbell for the first time takes the lead, but look, like Chris mentioned on the outside, the 00, led by Evan Pienta, getting help from Sobczak and Brady Powers. But right now it's all Lee Campbell in that Sonic the Hedgehog car, using his speed to stay out front in front of the 30 of Justin Gann. But Hilbrands, don't look now, is coming back. We've got 3 to go at Daytona. Hilbrins and Colby, first and second with a lot of help. But don't look now. Evan Pienta into 0-0 on that outside line. Oh! We got the big crash. Hilbrins for 30. Oh, lots of cars involved in this one, and we will stack them up one more time. Wow, that crash took out at least 3 to 4 cars. Hilbrins was taken out, and I believe Lee Campbell was involved in that wreck. Bailey Dutton was involved in that wreck. Johnny Rapp was involved in that wreck. Chase Berry might have come out clean.
Yeah, let's go back and see if we can see what happened. It's kind of to be expected the closer that we get to the end right here. It looks like the 14 and the 92. Yeah, see, here's just another situation, and it's not anything, that's anybody's fault, really. It's just a product of this type of racing. The 14 of Lee Campbell is slightly higher than what the guys in the middle are expecting. You see all this space to the yellow line? He's just up a little bit higher than what those guys anticipate, and they just come together, and you got a big melee. All those guys on the outside, the 14, the 92, looks like the 22 of Brady Powers just got his lap back. He was involved as well. The 30 of Justin Gann. The 15 of Chris Blassie. Lots of guys, unfortunately. I don't know how much terminal damage we have. The 14 is really bad, and the 92 is in really bad shape. But other than that, I don't know how much serious, severe damage we have.
Yeah, I think you're right. That 92 is banged up pretty hard. The 14, I think, probably sustained the most damage, and that's going to eliminate him. It looks to me like Tony has got a lot of right side damage right now, but it's unclear if he's going to pit. I don't know if he's going to stay out and just hope that the car drives okay. We're watching him right now. He is going to be coming down pit road, and I would imagine he's going to get just enough damage repaired to stay on the lead lap and get back out there. He'll be followed by Bailey Dutton, who is also involved in that crash and has some pretty heavy damage. But right now, just to restack the running order, Scott Sobczak, despite being involved in an earlier crash, is going to be lining up first. Austin Greer, who got into Sobczak earlier, is going to be starting second. Rye Jones and Randy Bechtel, as well as Chase Berry and Johnny Rapp, 4 payday drivers lined up 3rd through 6th.
Yeah, and we were just riding on board with Randy Bechtel right there, who did an awesome job to get through that deal. Really, really nice job. Cut it to the bottom, and that's what I said earlier about running the bottom. You got some options. You can go down there to the grass. You can go down there to the apron. And he was able to get by it. And here we are. You'd see very, very quickly how fast things can change at Daytona. Scott Sobczak and Austin Greer running 1-2, and it wasn't that long ago when Austin Greer was turning Scott Sobczak around in front of the field.
Yeah, I think to be exact, it was about 6 or 7 laps ago. And we are going to line up for a green-white checkered, so you're getting some free racing tonight. If you're tuning in, and if you're in the chat, let us know. What driver are you rooting for? Which driver do you think is going to win here? Simply type a name and let us know what you think in the chat. Chris, is there a driver that you think might be in the best position here?
I think that I really like where Rye Jones is. Coming to the line, green-white checkered, it's going to take a level of aggression, and we've been in races with Jones, and we know how aggressive he will be. I like where he's at. I like his position. He's somebody that if a hole were to form between that 45 and that 81, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him try to take it. But I also like to have the lead. I also like where Scott Sobczak's at. He's somebody that's, he has the lead, he's in control, and there's something to be said for having control of the field. And Austin Greer is going to have control of the outside lane.
We've got a Brady Powers fan in the chat right now. Brady's had a good run, but he is down 4 laps after being pretty strong and running the top 4 earlier tonight. So he'll be back next week looking for a better run. and hopefully he'll be able to get that next week. But these drivers roll down the backstretch, hopefully for the last time under caution. They're lining up 2 by 2 by 2. The guy I'm looking at right now is someone who has kind of been running in the back. He's been playing that wait and see strategy all night long, and he even almost got caught in a really bad position, being lapped down. But him and Randy Bechtel played it smart, took the wave around, and the cautions worked to their advantage. And that's the 52 of Johnny Rapp, sitting in 6th right now on that outside line, 3rd car on the outside. You expect him to maybe be the first one to start that 3rd row and see if he can get his teammate Chase Berry to go with him.
It's a good possibility, and you could see Randy in front of him go up to that 3rd row. Meanwhile, I want to just quickly mention Chris Pierce, who spent the last several laps, 2 laps down, currently finds himself back on the lead lap. Coming to the green
Here they go. Pace car peeled off, 2 to go. Sobzak is going to lead him to the line. Austin Greer on the outside. The rules are out the window. The gloves are off. These drivers are going to be pushing and going for it. You can see Randy Bechtel pushing that 45 out past Sobzak, but he can't clear that 81. Bechtel is in 2nd, and it looks like he's got his payday teammate Johnny Rapp right behind him.
Oh, he's going to make the 3rd lane work.
Here we go. 18, Bechtel to the lead. 45 doesn't have much help. Sobzak looks like he's going to get past. Look at the aggressive move by Rye Jones to lead the 45 out to dry and to get hooked up with his payday teammates. Wow. Coming to the white flag, it's all Bechtel into 18 and his teammate Johnny Rapp in 2nd place, but I think Rye Jones and Austin Greer are going to have something to say about this. 1 lap to go. White flag from the Apex Energy Cup Series. 250 at Daytona. Rye Jones to the outside. He's got the 00 of Evan Pienta with him. Will they be able to get momentum? Right now, it's all the 18 car and Randy Bechtel, followed by Johnny Rapp as they make their way down the backstretch one final time. Jones on the outside.
Chase Berry wanted to make a move to the outside, but that hole closed up really, really quickly as they come through 3 and 4. Who's going to try to make a move? Can Johnny Rapp get to the outside, or is it blocked off?
Evan's going to be pushing the 7 here, but the 7 is teammates with 18. They're going to come to the line, but I don't think he's going to have enough. Randy Bechtel is going to win the Apex Energy 250 at Daytona to claim his first win of the season. Congratulations to Randy Bechtel. An exciting finish for an exciting race. Randy Bechtel is going to finish 1st. Rye Jones, his payday teammate, finishes 2nd. 3rd is Johnny Rapp. 4th is Evan Pienta. 5th is Austin Greer after a late race caution. Bailey Dutton comes home to finish 6th. Chase Berry, the final payday car, in 7th. Sobzak in 8th, with Pierce and Blassie rounding out the top 10. Wow, Chris, have you caught your breath?
Oh, man, that was intense. I had a feeling coming off of turn 2 that Randy was going to try to make that move. He had the momentum. He had the run. He tried to stay as close as he could to that 45 coming to the line there, or coming to off of turn 2. And he had that lane. The 45 left a lane to the wall open, and all of his teammates went with him, and they made it work. So really nice job by those guys as Chase Berry makes a little excursion through the grass.
Yeah, so we're going to pull these guys up to be interviewed in just a second. We'll get them all into the waiting room here. And we'll go ahead and we'll start with the 3rd place as we watch Randy Bechtel celebrate his first win of the season. Fun story about Randy real quick. He didn't decide to run the season until today, and that ended up being a great decision. So we'll catch up with Johnny Rapp, who finished 3rd. We'll bring him into the broadcast booth here. Johnny Rapp in the 52. This is Ellis in the Slingshot booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you. What's up?
Wow, we're just now catching our breath. I feel like that was a roller coaster of emotions for the last 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, it was a pretty wild race for sure. Me and Randy got lucky. We called a caution because we weren't going to have enough fuel, and Yeah, my foot was shaking for the last 5 laps, I think. But
I think we were all shaking. Everyone's feet were probably shaking. And that you and Randy played the strategy right. Chris and I noticed you took that wave around early on, or I guess in the later stages of the race, because it was kind of a last ditch effort to get your lap back. And you needed a caution, and you got it, and it played out perfectly. My money was on you, by the way, in the end, but you still walked away with a third place finish. Talk to us a little bit about the early part of the race compared to the last part of the race. We watched you kind of remain in the back most of the time. When was your kind of go point? What lap did you guys decide to go?
well, it would have been probably earlier if it went green and we got our full pit strategy through and we didn't mess up getting in pit road and stuff. Probably like 10 to go if it was green flag run. But yeah, I mean, we kind of just played it by ear at the end there because everything was all over the place. So we got lucky, got everyone back together for the most part. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Payday 1, 2, 3 finish. Hey, before we let you go, you got any shout outs for anybody tonight?
just the usual, shout out to my dad. I'm sure he's watching. Shout out to the other payday guys. Yeah, congratulations to Randy. Good run by Ryan. And sorry, Chase.
Hey, he still walked away with a good 7th place finish. Don't feel too bad for him.
Yeah, true. But yeah, other than that, and you guys for getting into this new venture, broadcasting. Seems like you guys are doing a pretty good job of it. And we enjoy it. So
Good deal. We appreciate that, and we'll work to get better each week. And next week, hopefully, you'll get even better and walk away with a 2nd place finish, or maybe even a win. Who knows?
we'll see.
All right, Johnny. Good race. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right.
All right, we're going to bring the number 7 of Rye Jones into the booth. Number 7, Rye Jones. This is Ellis up in the Slingshot booth. You got a copy on us?
Yes, sir, I do.
Wow, congratulations, first of all, on that 2nd place finish. It got wild there. I think we're all still catching our breath. We talked to your teammate, Johnny Rapp, who said his feet were shaking for the final 5 laps of the race. And that was kind of an up and down kind of race. You stayed on the lead lap, I believe, most of the race, but I think you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, were working pretty hard to get Randy and Johnny back on the lead lap by helping them save fuel and stay out as long as possible. Are we correct about that?
Yeah, we were doing as much as we could. And Johnny's right, by the way. I like my hands are shaking still. Like that was our whole goal was to work together and obviously have fun out of the most of it. Um, when they kind of got backtracked from the first pit stop cycle and just how much of a mess that was, we still wanted to work with them as much as possible. And they ended up getting the lap down, and when the next caution happened, they stayed out to get their lap back, and just they tried to save as much as they could. And so I started up front on that second to last restart, and it got hectic way too early. There was still like 30 something to go, so I backed out so that way I can help them. And I just stayed the lead car because I had plenty of fuel, and we just tried to do what we could, and they were they were gonna come up short. They ended up being about I think overall they were gonna be like 6 laps short, and so they pitted with about I want to say 10 or 9 to go, and that's just as much as they could do. So that way they could stay out ahead in case a caution came out, and sure enough it did, and it worked in their favor. And then we were all able to pit. Me and Chase, we still had some left side tires, so we wanted to take extra. They had a whole full set, so just really glad it worked out. Our whole goal was us four to just work together and try and make it to the finish for the most part. The fact that we were kind of all up there at the end it was our goal to be like, okay, we can actually pull this off as a team. And it got really hectic at the end. I made a bonsai move 3 wide to try and make it work, and it did. And then I went up high, and we just wanted to cover both lanes, and we ended up getting 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, man, that inside move, that shot to the bottom you took, I think it was at the next to last lap or the last lap.
I want to
Where
say it
you,
was like the next to last lap. Something.
yeah, I think so. But you took him 3 wide on the bottom, and that's what got you out behind Randy, I believe, and that was pretty much off to the races from that point on. So good job tonight, man. For anybody before we let you go.
I got to really thank predicted everything and as of how we ran tonight. They're probably the most patient, especially me. I'm probably the most impatient. So I got to thank them and everybody with Payday Racing that lets me race with them. Chris Holm, Justin Wilson. Um, I can't say enough about these guys, and I got to thank you guys for always putting on a good show for us, creating this league for us to run. I think it's a lot of fun, and I expect good things in the future. I think it's going to be a fun time.
Hey, we appreciate that a lot. Hey, what do we got to do to get Justin Wilson back in here?
Honestly, probably not Tuesday races. He's a very busy man. He has a very important job working on airplanes, and so
Yeah, no big deal, right?
yeah, a lot of times on Tuesdays he can't make it. Plus, he's got a family and everything. So probably Wednesday or Thursday night races would probably make it for him.
All right.
Thursday's probably the best.
Noted. All right, man. Hey, good job. Congratulations on the second place. We'll throw you back into the waiting room, and we'll bring in the winner, Randy Bechtel.
All right, thanks, guys.
See ya. Well, look what showed up tonight. Randy Bechtel, the winner, deciding to jump into the series the day of, and he brings home a win. Randy, this is Ellis in the Slingshot booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir, I do.
Congratulations. How exciting was that for you in those last couple of laps? We talked to the other 2 Payday drivers who finished second and third, and they said their hands were shaking and their feet were shaking. What about you?
Well, I was kind of spooked a little bit because my VR headset was spazzing out.
Oh, no.
It was like I was going from just moving around the cockpits, and it held up for the last restart. So just like, we're just going to go high there, and I think we got about 45 and set sail.
So you were doing all this in the midst of the VR glitching out. I imagine at any track that's scary, but Daytona, last 2 laps, I feel like that's about as scary as they come. Your pit strategy was all over the place, but only because it had to be. And what kind of relief did you have when that caution came out, the next to last caution that basically put you back on the lead lap?
That was a big relief. That we had to pick up. It was like 9 to go or something like that, and Chase was adamant that there was going to be a caution with 6 to go. It's like he scripted this whole race tonight.
That's what we heard.
So
Chase is the mastermind.
sometimes he's good for something.
All right. Well, so you basically worked the strategy correctly after looking like maybe you were down and out for the count after having to pit for fuel after taking a wave around. But Randy, you managed to come back. You had the speed. Were you worried at all about Rye or Johnny maybe going for the win themselves? How much of that was kind of determined? Are there team orders at play, or is it every man for themselves?
I think what Johnny said, he was just going to push me. I figured Chase and Ryan were going to go outside, but I guess it was Ryan and Evan. So
yeah, Ryan was coming there at the end. So this was a statement win for you after, maybe not having the best of seasons in the next gen. After a really strong season in the 87s, you're back and you claim the first win of the season. Who do you feel like your biggest competition this season is going to be? Aaron Smith was not here tonight. He might be an obvious choice, but are you worried about him or anybody else?
I don't know how to say his last name, but the 81 cars.
Scott Sobzak.
Yeah, I feel like he's going to be pretty quick. Of course, Aaron when he shows up. I'm sure Chase will show up on the road course. So with that, Evan. So but there's a few guys. I'm sure I'm missing a few too.
Yeah, we get a lot of variety in the field. Lots of high I ratings. Lots of guys who have specialty tracks that they really excel at. But hey, man, you knocked out the first one. You made the statement. You're officially going to be the points leader headed into week 2. Congratulations. We are glad to have you back for season 3 of Slingshot Racing. Any shout outs, Randy, that you want to give before we let you go?
No, I thank all my teammates there, Ryan, Chase, Johnny, of course you guys for hosting league and broadcasting. Can't wait to get back there and watch it, see how it looked. And
Yeah,
you guys, all
let
the
us
league
know.
sponsors.
Hey, man, we appreciate you. We're glad you're back, and go out there and celebrate with the rest of your team. We'll talk to you shortly.
Thank you guys.
See you, bud. All right, so you heard from our top 3 finishers, Johnny Rapp, Ryan Jones, and Randy Bechtel, all payday racing drivers. A 1-2-3 finish for those guys tonight. Chris, it was a night of action. We saw a lot of calm in the beginning, but things really picked up after the halfway point. Did it deliver everything you expected a Daytona ARCA race to deliver?
Yeah, I think so. I really didn't know what to expect when we got down to those last 15 laps. I kind of had a sneaky suspicion that we were gonna have what we saw, which that's nothing to take away from these drivers. That's just plate racing. Everybody's going for it at the end. I think that we saw some amazing racing all night from the pit road snafu earlier. Those guys really collected that nicely. Brayton Laster's adventure through the grass that should have probably taken out more cars too. I saw a lot of action, and I saw a lot of problems that probably should have been bigger accidents than what they were. And I think that just speaks to the level of ability in this field this season.
Yeah, we've got some exceptionally high I ratings. Again, the requirement was over 1,750, but we got guys up in the 4,000 and 5,000. So we've got a really exceptional class of talent. We don't have as many drivers as we have had in our previous series, but again, we're looking at a really high quality level of drivers. So I think this season is going to be a great season. I think this race delivered everything we thought it would. We saw the strategy. We saw the intense racing. We saw the bump drafting gone wrong. We saw the issues on pit road that shook the race up very early and created those situations where drastic strategy calls became a necessity. And pretty much everything we expected to see, we got at some point during this race. And I think it's going to be a great season. I think if anything, any other races like what we saw tonight, we are in store for quite the treat. So we'll do a quick rundown of the final race results tonight. And this will pretty much be the points moving forward into week 2. So Randy Bechtel, with his win, is going to start out the first point series leader of season 3 for the Apex Energy Cup Series. Ryan Jones, another payday driver, finishing second. Johnny Rapp, after starting 15th, is going to finish third. Evan Pienta, in that Pienta Designs 00, is going to finish 10th. Austin Greer, despite being caught up in some accidents through bump drafting, is going to bring it home to finish 5th. Bailey Dutton is going to finish 6th in his first slingshot race. Chase Berry, that final day payday driver, in 7th. Scott Sobzak, who we heard Randy Bechtel mention as a championship contender, is going to be finishing in the 8th place. Chris Pierce, who I'll note designed all the overlays you're looking at with Pierce Graphics, finished 9th. Chris Blassie, after some incidents on track, brought home a 10th place finish. Patrick Colby, who pretty much was the wingman for Tony Hilbrand's all night. Those two teammates are going to bring home a 10th and 11th and 12th place finish after being caught up in some wrecks in the late goings of the Apex Energy 250. Lee Campbell, despite leading late in the race, got caught up in another accident. Justin Gann and Brady Powers are going to round out the top 15. So a great race tonight that saw a lot of action, and we are looking forward to next week, where I believe, I should know the schedule, but I'm going to double check it so we know where we're headed next week. We're going to be headed into Atlanta, the old Atlanta. We're going to see a tire strategy race. We're going to see cars slipping and sliding around. So a much different track and a much different race complexion that we'll see it next week as we move into Atlanta. Until then, though, you can check out our social media that's been running across the screen all night. We've got an Instagram. You're watching on Twitch right now, many of you. You can visit us at slingshotracing.org to gain access to all those social medias with just one-click links. And yeah, Chris, do you have anything else before we send this off tonight?
Just to say that if you liked what you saw tonight, if you were watching the broadcast, if you really like the action that you saw and you want to be a part of Slingshot Racing, we do have drop weeks. This is a really good series to be a part of. There's some very quality drivers, as you saw by the action tonight, and I'm super excited for this Apex Energy Cup Series this season. We've got a lot of open spots available in it with a lot of awesome giveaways. You're not out of the championship points hunt either with the drop week. So, like I said, if you like the action that you saw, feel free to look into us. I'll put a little ad up here for you where you can get a little bit of information about joining the Slingshot Racing League, as well as to see some of the tracks that we'll be visiting in the Cup Series and in the Truck Series this season.
Absolutely. And hey, we'll be back tomorrow night for more action. Tony Hilbrunz will be in the booth broadcasting the Apex Energy Truck Series from Daytona. If you thought tonight was exciting, tomorrow we've got twice as many trucks out on the track. It's going to be crazy. We'll see you then tomorrow night at 8:30 for the Apex Energy Truck Series. Folks, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Ellis, joined by Chris. Have a lovely evening.